Over the past few months, as this channel has grown, we've been getting quite a few gear-related questions from new subscribers. Now, gear isn't something that we talk about too much on this channel, but earlier this year I had to make some quite big changes to the way that I work as a street photographer, and that impacted on the gear that I carry. You see, I suffer from tendonitis in the knees. At the start of this year, I was getting flare-up after flare-up after flare-up to the point where, on occasion, I could hardly walk. So to manage this tendonitis, I had to change the way that I worked in order to lighten the load on my knees. And that for me meant working shorter periods on the street and carrying less stuff. I went from 8 to 10 hours a day to 2 to 4 hours a day. Because I wasn't out all day, I didn't need to carry things like food, waterproofs, extra water, extra batteries, and so on, which meant that the amount of gear I was carrying went down by about 2/3, but I still had a little bit of discomfort in my left knee. We put it down to the fact that when I wear a shoulder bag, with my posture, which I'll admit isn't the greatest, and the way that I walk and the way that I shoot, this shoulder bag was causing my body to twist when I was actually out working, and obviously my left knee was then trying to compensate for this twist in my body. The dom key had to go and I had to get a new camera bag. So I went down the rabbit hole of trying different bags out from Amazon and then sending them back, and in the end I came to the conclusion that a sling bag was probably the best option for me. And then completely out of the blue, I got an email from Oberwerth in Germany asking if we would like to try one of their camera bags. I saw they had a sling bag on their website. They sent it me through, and this is the bag which I'm using today. Now, I'll be honest, we've been approached by quite a few camera bag companies. We've also been approached by quite a few software companies and by just about every Chinese lens manufacturer known to mankind. We've never taken any of them up on their offers because, you know, we aren't a gear channel. We aren't focused on doing reviews, so we don't need their gear in order to create content. If I wasn't genuinely looking for a new camera bag, it's unlikely I would have taken Oberwerth up on their offer, and I was absolutely prepared to send the bag back if it wasn't for me. But I liked it, and the more I used it, the more I really liked it. And if you've been on a workshop with me in the last couple of months, or you've seen me working out on the street, you will have seen me with this bag. Basically, it ticked all the boxes I wanted. It's comfortable, it doesn't look like a camera bag, and it takes a Leica M camera system really well. And for me, it's a forever bag. You know, this is a bag which I kind of think I'll still be using in 20 years' time. Now, as a thank you to Oberwerth, I'm going to leave a link to this bag in the description below. So if you are interested in their products, please go and check that link out, and I'll leave a discount code there as well if you need it. Now, Sarah's still using her National Geographic Africa camera bag, the small one. She's had this for a couple of years now. You can't get them anymore, unfortunately, but you can still find them occasionally online. But beware, we did actually order another one of these earlier in the year, and it turned out to be a fake. Luckily, we were able to return the bag, but yeah, be careful out there when you're buying online, particularly places like eBay. Now, when it comes to cameras, I've really gone back to basics, and I've tried to keep everything as small and as lightweight as possible. My main camera is still the Leica M Monochrom with a 28mm Elmarit lens, and I have a Leica M9-P as my backup with a 50mm Summicron lens, which is another really small lightweight lens. Now, Sarah is also using an M Monochrom, but she's using it with her 28mm Summicron lens, which is a little bit bigger and heavier than mine. When she's shooting her projects, she is using a 50mm Noctilux a lot now, and some of those photographs can be seen in some of the recent videos that we've been showing. Now, one of the other questions we get asked a lot, particularly at workshops, is why we don't use modern M cameras like the M10 or the M11. Now, if you look at what a Leica M is in terms of how you actually take a photograph, you look through the viewfinder, you focus a manual lens, you compose your image within frame lines, and you have a shutter speed dial on top of the camera. And that's really been the M DNA for probably the best part of 70 years. And you can give any experienced M camera user any model from the M3 to the M11, and they would easily start taking photographs with it without any problems because they know how an M camera is designed and how it should work. So the only real difference in terms of cameras is the output. Do you want it to be on film or do you want it to be digital? That's kind of the first thing that people ask when they come to buy an M camera. And when it comes to digital, do you want 18 megapixel CCD or do you want 60 megapixel CMOS output? We are very much in the CCD camp because it's the closest to a scanned piece of film that you can get within a camera. in our opinion. And why monochrome cameras? Well, in our case, it's a bit like putting a black and white film in a film camera. You know you're only going to be shooting with black and white, so that kind of focuses the mind a certain way. Now, one of the questions we've been getting a lot lately is to do with this little thing on top of the camera. This is the 28mm Leica viewfinder. A lot of people have asked why we've got these on our cameras, even though we've got 28mm frame lines within the actual rangefinder itself. The reason for that, for me personally, is that those frame lines are very difficult to see if you're wearing glasses. By putting the frame lines up here, it makes things a lot easier in terms of composing the image. Now, Sarah is slightly different. She uses the external viewfinder because she is left eye dominant. Now, with a Leica rangefinder camera, if you're right eye dominant and you bring the camera up to your eye, you can still see outside of the frame with your left eye. It gives you kind of almost like a panoramic view of what's going on outside of the frame, which is kind of nice to actually see in certain situations. But if you're left eye dominant like Sarah is, and you put the camera up to your face, the camera hides the right eye, you don't get that feeling of that panoramic view that you can get if you were right eye dominant. So by having the viewfinder on top of the camera, she can bring her camera up to her left eye and still keep the right eye open and get that panoramic feel when she's actually shooting. Now, as for the actual viewfinders which we're using the Leica Brightline viewfinders, the plastic ones. They don't make them anymore, unfortunately, so used prices are starting to get really silly. I've also got a 21mm viewfinder which does have 28mm frame lines within it. I think they brought it out for the M8 when that was released. It's a really well made finder. It's far superior to the plastic ones, but it comes at a hefty price tag. Also, the wider field of view is just too wide. For me personally anyway. Now, when I'm shooting 28mm on film, I put it on this camera body. This is a Leica M6TTL. This has the 0.58 viewfinder magnification, which is designed to allow the user to see the 28mm frame lines easily when wearing glasses. So I don't need the external viewfinder when I'm using the lens on this particular camera. Some people have asked about the filters on the end of our cameras. We tend to use medium yellow filters when shooting with monochrome cameras or black and white film. We find the yellow filter just gives a little bit more contrast to the black and white image when we're actually shooting. The filters we use are all made by Heliopan. These filters are made in Germany. I have Leica filters. I have B&W filters. I only spend my money now on Heliopan filters. I think they're very good. If you have a filter which is slightly too fat or slightly too long, chances are your lens hood isn't going to fit back onto the lens with the filter in place. With Heliopan filters, we've never had any trouble across multiple lenses. They don't foul the lens hoods at all in use. Hope that helps. Hope that cleared up some of the questions that we've been asked over the past few weeks. If you have any other further gear questions, just leave them below in the comments and we'll do our best to answer them. I'll put all the links to all the bits and pieces we've been talking about today in the description below as well. Please think about subscribing to the channel. It really helps us no end when it comes to putting together videos like this. And I'll see you on the next video. Take care.